This is going to be great because we have Theresa Pontieri in the hot seat. I call it the hot seat, but it ain't really the hot seat. Um, and we're just going to be talking about the budget. And I don't know anything. I don't know how this girl does it. I'm going to tell you that right now because I'd be all lost. But we're going to find out. And we're going to talk about her transparency. So this is going to be really good. Do they call you councilwoman or
I prefer councilwoman.
you do?
Council
Do they
member,
call you the honorable?
some people do, which that's a
Okay.
little extra
All
for
right.
me.
No worries. Did you get a letter that said that you were the honorable?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm ready, Mark, because I've got another show after this. So we are pushing on time.
You are now tuned in to Today with Pastor Jay on WNZF News Radio, where we discuss inspiring and informative news. And now here's your host, Pastor Jerlyn Denny.
If you're sleeping, wake up. I mean, this is a wake up alarm because if you didn't hear any other show, you need to hear this one because I have Councilwoman Theresa Pontieri from the Palm Coast City Council in the hot seat today. And I'm so excited to have her here because she has brought a refreshing change to Palm Coast City Council. She's very transparent, very blunt. And if you've ever seen her on the dais, she's just going to tell you like it is, whether you like it or not. And she's here today. I'm just honored to have you here as my guest. And she's over there going, uh-oh, Pastor Jay, what did I get myself into? Okay, let's just be honest here because you've been honest with me thus far. After you agreed to come on my show, how many times did you have a second thought?
Oh, none.
None?
No.
Ah,
No.
man.
You got to try harder.
Oh, shucks. I was trying to put like the fear in her or something, but I'm transparent too. And people who are transparent recognize that in other people.
And appreciate it.
And they also appreciate it. And you know, I don't have a hidden agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Those who have hidden agendas, I found out, guess what? They think everybody else have a hidden agenda
That's
too.
true.
Because they judge people by how they are.
Sure.
So let's talk about how long you've been on the city council. What's going on? Because
So-
you had a crazy campaign.
Yes, the campaign was a whirlwind. It was my first time ever campaigning for anything, and I was elected in November of 2022, so still fresh and new. Myself and Councilwoman Hyder have been there since November, so about 8 months now.
Okay, about 8 months. And in these 8 months, I'm sure you've learned a lot. Did you know what you was walking into? First of all, I'm going to say it. You guys are underpaid. For all the work, you don't have to say it. I know the council just got a pay raise. It was not enough. It was not enough. In fact, you should get hazard pay from the time that you were campaigning because it was crazy. People were posting stuff. I don't run for office. I would never run for office, but I support candidates and I support conservative candidates. So I supported you and Alan Lowe. Both of you were running against each other. Was somebody else in the race? I don't even remember. Was it?
Mr. Sims Jones was in the
Oh,
race
that's
as
right.
a Democrat. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, he didn't really say a whole lot, but you two did. But in the end, what I'm grateful for is, at least from my perspective, you're sitting in the seat now, and those that may have been against you before, they're rooting for you now. Did you know that? It took them a minute.
Yeah, well, I will say that one thing that I've learned is constituents they can be very fair weather. You can have a lot of people on your side and supporting you, and then you make one decision that people don't like, and it's very easy for people to kind of change the tide, so to speak. Some people, they cling on to issues more than others.
They're like church members, They'll follow you today and unfollow you and drop you tomorrow. You're the best thing for them today, and then tomorrow they hate your guts.
Well, for me, the one thing that I just want people to understand is that I truly do make decisions based on what I think is in the best interest of the city. It's not because I have a hidden agenda or because I never do anything for political purposes. And that is one thing that
So you don't campaign from the dais?
I don't do that. No, I don't do that. I really try to just do my research, put in the work, and then truthfully make the right decision based on what I feel is good. Not in the moment, but long term for our city and our residents.
Okay, so, there's a lot of things been going on about the budget. A lot of things been happening. People have been fussing because this supposed franchise fee was coming out. And it come across at Palm Coast City Council. No one wants to pay the franchise fee. I learned yesterday that there are only about 12% of the counties out of the 67 counties in the state of Florida that don't have a franchise fee.
So there's 12, you're close.
Oh, I'm close.
12,
Well, I'm close. She's got the real stuff. Okay.
12% don't have either a franchise fee or a utility tax.
Okay.
So we don't have either one of those.
Okay.
Flagler Beach, for instance, has a franchise fee, and actually theirs is 6%. And
Mm-hmm.
most people don't realize that because it's been in place for so long.
Okay.
But yeah, we are one of the very few that has neither one of those.
So, what is a franchise fee? I mean,
That's a great question.
That's a good question because you hear all the, and then there was something about a non-binding, referendum, and I'm going non-binding. I mean, just so many terms have been going on, and those who have not been listening to what's going on at Palm Coast City Council, you're not engaged at all. I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff. So we're just going to break it down for those who don't know.
Sure.
So kind of give me the backstory, how we got to where people were hating everybody's guts that was on the city council, where the
Yes.
mobs were coming out to the Palm Coast City Hall and they were, hurling all kinds of accusations. How do we get there?
Yeah. So, and I just want to put on the record that I did not vote myself a raise. I was accused of that from a lot of people.
Oh, you didn't do that?
I was not
Oh,
on
okay.
council when that was done. I understand why it was done, but I did not do that. So I just want to be very clear about that. So franchise fee, basically what it is, it's a fee that is imposed by a city or a county on the power company for the right of the power company to use the city's right of way.
Okay.
So basic, and then what they do is the power company passes that fee down to the customer. So
Okay.
it's not a tax. Matter of fact, the Florida Supreme Court has actually ruled that it is not a tax. So therefore, it is not regulated by the Florida Constitution the way that other taxes are regulated by
Okay.
it. So that's a really important distinction because basically what we can do is we can earmark those monies for a certain reason. And what we wanted to earmark these monies for was specifically for our payment management program. And
Can
we
you
have,
do that?
we can. So we actually have a whole separate fund. It's called our Streets, I think Streets Improvement Fund, and it's actually a part of our capital fund. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not even, it never even sees the general fund. And I know a lot of people were really upset because they thought, well, they're just going to take all these taxes, they're going to throw them in the general fund, and then we're going to have no idea what's going to happen. They're going to pad their salaries and all these other things.
Okay. So you can take monies, well, FPL
hmm
can take monies, collect them, and give them to the city,
Correct.
and you can use them for whatever reason you want to use them for.
We can use them for these types of projects. Absolutely. They are called unrestricted funds. So it's very similar to ad valorem. Your ad valorem taxes, your property taxes are actually unrestricted funds. They go into the general fund traditionally with the city of Palm Coast. And those are, the general fund is how we get to the rollback. It pays for a lot of things, a lot of operational things for the city. So we could say that the franchise fees will go into the general fund, but that is not what I, as council, wanted to happen. I specifically made the motion to include that we would enter into a resolution as council that those monies would specifically go towards our street improvement fund so
Mm-hmm.
that citizens know, hey, I'm paying this franchise fee, but it's getting my roads fixed. That was the goal.
All right. So but why? You're conservative.
hmm
Why are you trying to put money on people's bills, girl?
I know.
I mean,
Well,
let's just talk about it. Why?
no, I get it. I get it. Well, there's a couple things. So, as someone who's new and is going through the first budget cycle, I've really had to pour, 30 hours a week into looking at budget sheets, budget worksheets, line items, and try to figure out where we can trim fat. And to the credit of my staff at the city, we did grant the rollback. It forced them to make $2.8 million in cuts from the general fund, and they did that. And I think that the cuts that they made were very wise. I'm very proud of our staff for engaging in that necessary exercise to trim
Mm-hmm.
that fat that people have been talking about. But the purpose of the franchise fee is to get us money specifically for our roads. That's very transparent.
We don't have any money.
We don't have enough. So here's
Why we don't have any money? Teresa, you've been on there for 8 months.
I know.
Have you mismanaged funds?
Why-
Are you taking a kickback?
Yeah, and all of the above. Yes, all of the above. No, so what we use now for our roads is the local option fuel tax, and right now we get $2.2 million a year, roughly, for that.
Mhm.
We also get about another million from what's called our municipal revenue sharing. By statute, we have to, as a city, put a certain amount of monies into our payment program. So that brings us to about 3.3 million. Well, we're still short about 1.5 million to really engage in the type of global solutions for paving that our staff has gotten us to. So those are things that fix the roads but don't do a completely new road. Essentially, that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the high level way of putting it. So in order to get that extra, 1.2, 1.5 million, so that we can actually address our roads and our infrastructure, we wanted to impose a very minimal franchise fee.
When you say we, who's we?
Well, the
Where did you
idea
get this idea from? Did you come up with this idea? Are
the
you trying to
the
tax us,
the
Theresa?
franchise fee. So I went to staff and I said, how can we make ourselves less reliant on ad valorem?
Okay.
Because
Because
it
that changes.
it does. So
Most people don't know that.
right. So if you remember, anybody who was here during the last recession probably remembers how many foreclosures there were in
There
Palm
was a
Coast.
ton of
It was
foreclosures.
pretty devastating,
Mm-hmm.
and the property values dropped so drastically in the city. So people don't realize back in 2008, our millage rate was down at 2. It was like 2.1, 2.2.
Mm-hmm.
During that recession, our millage rate doubled. It went up to like 4.19.
That happened,
That happened.
but no one knew it.
No one knew it because our property values dropped, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that you can't have the same ad valorem and bring in the same revenues. So you have to raise the ad valorem.
Is it me or since COVID, people been paying a little bit more attention to what's going on in their government?
They have been, and that's a good
Because
thing.
yeah, because it is a great thing. Because you
Hmm.
telling me we went from 2 to 4 and nobody knew, and
Hmm.
nobody, well, maybe a handful of people did,
Hmm.
and then now everyone is screaming, "What are you doing? What are you
Sure.
doing?"
And so my goal with this franchise fee was really to diversify our revenues, because what happens when things go up because of inflation? They never go back down again.
That is true.
So, I remember when I was in high school, I paid 98 cents for a gallon of gas, kind of
Hmm.
showing my age a little bit there. I'll never see $98 or 98 cents for a gallon of gas again. It just doesn't happen.
You
So,
saw 98 cents at a
yes,
gallon. Girl, you up there in
I
age.
know. I
You
told you
know,
I'm showing my
black
age.
don't crack and brown don't frown. You got some brown in you.
Well, thank you. Yes. So yeah, so I would just want to make sure that once we hit another recession, and according to a lot of economists, we're headed there. I want to make sure that we don't, in our city, we don't see ad valorem go up into the sixes and eights, because candidly, that's, if you look at our surrounding municipalities, they're already there. And I don't want to see that for our residents, because once that goes up, it's not coming back down. And I will fight tooth and nail to keep our property taxes low.
All right, well, we've got to take a break. We've got some questions online that people been asking, so we're going to throw them at you and see what you can do. Don't go anywhere, don't touch that dial. You're listening to Today with Pastor Jay.
My phone's blowing up right now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Are people aren't watching? Because I can see who's watching. They're not watching yet. Oh,
Oh yeah, no, I got some.
yeah, we
Like,
got some watching.
Daryl's listening.
Oh, okay. I'm going to start with some easy questions, and then we'll go. Someone wants to know if you're still the smartest person in the room.
I
We
say
gonna
I'm
get-
never the smartest person
Oh,
in the room.
but still, we're going to ask some of these questions, and then we'll ask some of the other ones, which I don't even know what half these things are, so we're going to see. All right, you ready? Because we got to go back in. I have very little time because I've got another show. All right, you ready? Welcome back. Welcome back. You're listening to Today with Pastor Jay, and I have Councilwoman Theresa Pontieri from the Palm Coast City Council. First time on the show. So happy to have you here. And we're going to just go to some of these questions that I've been receiving. So I put a post out there in one of my conservative groups. I have a group called Flagler Conservative Politics on Facebook. And I threw it out there and said, hey, she's going to be on my show. Anybody have any questions? So someone asked the question, are you still the smartest person in the room?
I think they must have misheard something I said, because I actually say I'm never the smartest person in the room, but I will not get outworked. So I always work really hard and try to research and educate myself, because I always know that in any room that I'm in, there are bound to be people that I'm surrounded by that know much more about things than I do.
Another person said that you're very creative, have a creative way of explaining taxes. Ask her what a resiliency officer is and why they hired that individual right after college at $80,000 plus benefits.
So that is not at all related to our topic of discussion, but I'm happy to try to answer the
I
question.
don't know what any of this is. Do you
So,
know
yeah,
anything
so
about it?
we
You
hired,
know?
I do know who this is. So we hired,
Oh,
well,
I ain't mad at
I
you.
say we, but our city staff hired Maven Rogers. A resiliency officer is basically high level, someone who is hired to look at ways that we can creatively be more resilient with regards to energy, climate change, things like that. So she is looking, for instance, she brought to City Council the EV charging stations grant.
Mm-hmm.
So things like that. And candidly, I won't say whether or not I agree with that type of hire or that type of thinking, but I will tell you that
You're
based on,
explaining it.
but yeah, and based on who is in office in DC,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have somebody like that on your staff, it does cut you off from being able to apply for certain type of government aid.
Ah, that makes
Yeah,
sense. Always about who's in DC. But people
that's,
don't
yep.
realize that some of the decisions
Hmm.
that's made on a county and city level has something to do with what's happening up in DC. So,
Yeah.
all right, here's another question. Why is the city wasting things on such things as a bridge to nowhere over 100?
That is not our bridge. That FDOT paid for that bridge, actually.
Oh, that's not your bridge?
No, that's not our bridge.
Okay, or creating more parks if they can't even keep up with what they have.
So we actually just did a complete. It's called the POP. It was a basically a study on all of our current parks and inventory that we did jointly with the county to try to figure out what is the shape of our current parks and where are we lacking in areas of town
Mm-hmm.
for more parks. And candidly, from the conversation that I had with staff about the results of that survey last week, it was a consensus that we need to focus more on the parks that we have, and that is what our residents want, and that's what the surveys showed. So fortunately, we are going to put some focus on fixing a lot of the parks and really improving those before we move on to building more.
I've been getting some private messages from people who are excited about the fact that you sit on the dais and you're just pulling it out. In fact, at one of the city council meetings, you told one of your peers on it, hey, help pretty much, and this is Geraldine vernacular, you didn't
Hmm.
do this. You want to cut the budget, you want to do something, you want to find the money, do something.
Hmm.
Because I see you pouring a lot of time and energy into um, trying to find money where we
Hmm.
don't have to raise taxes and don't have to do a lot of things. Um, do you feel as though you might be in this fight by yourself or what? Because you pretty much told someone the other week, "Hey, we can't cut imaginary money." I laughed, by the way.
Yeah, and I won't get into what I meant by that specific comment. I mean, very, again, high level. The proposed cut that came from my colleague was for monies that are not even in our budget yet. So my point in looking at my colleague and saying, look, I don't want to impose a franchise fee. I
Hmm.
don't. That's not what I want to do. But I need your help to assist me in finding the money. If you can't propose a budget cut for money that doesn't exist, and that doesn't help us get to where we need to get, that doesn't help us pave our roads. I suggested that we enter into, or that we look at global solutions as an alternative to milling and resurfacing in order to reduce the cost of paving our roads. And I got a lot of pushback from the same person who wants to not impose a franchise fee. So you can't just say, you have to do. There's got to be some action behind your words. And I will not sit on that dais and advocate for something with empty promises because it's the popular thing to do or say.
Let's talk about the budget a little bit because that's what's coming up,
Hmm.
right? And you have a town hall scheduled on the
Tomorrow.
27th. On the
Tomorrow. Yep.
27th.
Hmm.
So this show is going to air a couple of days out after the blah 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 blah. I'm so glad this is pre-recorded because once I hit one, it's done. Okay, here we go. So you have a town hall scheduled on Thursday the 27th, and the show will air a few days after that. What are you hoping to accomplish with the town hall?
Education. That's it.
Education. That's it.
I want to be very transparent. Matter of fact, my city staff, who is wonderful, has helped me put together a PowerPoint. And I literally said, eliminate all the fluff. I understand what you're doing. You're trying to kind of, present things in a nice way. But I want facts and figures, and that's it. I want really for our residents to understand, what does the general fund do? Where do my tax dollars go? How do I know that certain money is going to paving? When you do cuts here, what does it affect there? So, my goal in this is to really give people, to make myself accessible. I want people to be able to ask questions and get answers. But I really just want to educate and just help people understand their city and the way that it's run and the way that it financially works.
I had a conversation with Daryl Boyer on yesterday, and he's running for state rep
Hmm.
for this area. And oftentimes people will come with him wanting him to do things and question him about stuff he's going to do once he's elected. And he's had to tell quite a few people, that's not what I do. How often do you get that? People come to you, want you to do something that's really county level that has nothing to do with the city or something that has something to do with state? Do you get a lot of that? They blame you for stuff that you have no control over.
Well, yeah, the bridge is a perfect example of
Hmm.
there's a lot, and it's not uncommon. I mean, people,
They
that's not
don't
what they
know.
just don't know. And I didn't know a lot of things before I ran as well, so it's totally understandable. And I commend Daryl for being very candid about what he can do and what he can't do and what he has control over, and he's a great candidate. So yeah, I get it a lot, and so that's part of this too. There were a lot of things that are said during public comment where you really just want to say, "Oh
People
my
hate you for
gosh."
stuff that's not even you.
Right.
Right.
Often, yes.
All right. Well, we got to go. We got to take another break. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to Today with Pastor Jay. Hey, you want to do something? You can do a quick plug for the town hall. I got to ask you one. There was a question, and I'm going to ask that instead of on the air about you talked about putting franchise fees as a non binding referendum
Hmm.
question on the ballot for general elections for the next 30 years. And she said, I think that would actually equate to 7 general election cycles. Why a non binding referendum? Why not a binding referendum where the funds are specifically earmarked for roads as opposed to the non binding wording where the city doesn't have to adhere to what the city wanted or voted for?
Do you want me to just on the air explain my motion?
In a minute.
Yes.
And you got 1 minute to
Yep.
do it because I got
Yep.
to go to the next show.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So what we did
We're
was
doing this here, not on the air, but we're going to have a lot more people that these are questions coming from a group.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no
Okay.
problem. So basically, the reason it was a non-binding referendum is because our agreement is with FPL. So we as council have to adopt a rate, and that's per the agreement with FPL. If we made it a binding referendum, then we wouldn't be in compliance with the agreement with FPL. So creatively, in my legal mind, I said, let us word it this way so that we're still in compliance with our agreement with FPL, but we enter into a joint resolution simultaneously where council says, yes, it's a non-binding referendum, but we agree as council that we have to adopt it. So it's taking the power, our ability to not adopt it out of our hands because we are going to agree to also enter into that resolution. In addition to that, the resolution also, per my motion, stated this is going to go to current roads and current Palm Coast.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go back. You got that answer. That was for those that asked that questions, and it's some of them, not really a whole lot. I'm going to ask one more question when we go back in. Well, don't hold that as final. A lot of people saying nope. They're calling you names. The normal stuff.
Yeah.
Ah, ha, ha, ha. You have to behave over there. You've got to behave. I have someone over there in the corner you guys can't see. She's over here cracking up laughing. One more question. Have you ever heard of zero-based budgeting and why we don't do this in PC? I don't know what, in Palm Coast, I don't know what zero-based budgeting is.
I have not. I can look into it.
Something that you can look into. All right. If you believe you have a fiduciary responsibility to people, yeah, you already answered that one. Why you don't take a survey or poll of your constituents before a vote so you can represent their wishes? That's something.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think, logistically, we just can't take a survey or poll,
On everything.
on everything. Additionally, too, a lot of the same people
Hmm.
tend to show up over and over and over, and we appreciate that, but we also can't operate in that type of vacuum.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to go back. Ready? I want to give a thank you and a shout out to Steve Verrier, theFloridaMortgageCenter.com, and Church on a Rock for sponsoring Today with Pastor Jay. I also want to remind everyone that on August the 12th, from 10 to 2, we're having the Back to School Jam, Back to School Bash. It's Gerald Ministries' 10th annual Back to School Supply Giveaway, and it's going to be at 2200 2200 North State Street in Bunnell. So I'm very excited about that. For more information, you can go to Geraldine.org. That's Jearlyn.org, or call me 828 Geraldine. So that's kind of cool. One last question. This came from one of the groups that I'm in. Are all these fees or taxes constitutional? They may be lawful, as we have a lot of unconstitutional laws on the books. What are you most concerned with? Upholding the Constitution or upholding the law? That's kind of
I think that's one and the same. I mean, the
Okay.
you can't pass laws that violate the Constitution, and you can't do anything on a local level that's going to violate the Constitution. And as I stated earlier, the Supreme Court of Florida, and it's the city of Hialeah, and I can't remember the other party, has already stated that these types of fees are specifically not taxes legally from a legal perspective. And so therefore they are governed differently than your actual taxes pursuant to the Florida Constitution.
Okay. So after all is said and done, and you're fighting the good fight, what do you want to be most remembered by?
Someone who genuinely made what I felt were the right decisions for the city, and that I have no ulterior motive. I don't have any aspirations to further my own image or my own political career. I really just want to do what I feel is in the best interest of Palm Coast.
Hmm. Do you live in Palm Coast? That was another question.
Yeah, yes,
You sure you're not from
I
Jacksonville?
I have lived in Palm Coast for 7 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, so and my family's been here since I think 2002.
I know your aunt.
Mhm. Yep, Kathy
Okay.
Summerlot. She's
Yep.
amazing.
She is amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, she is.
Mhm.
Well, I want to thank you. Any last words that you want to get out?
Yeah, so thank you for having me. I really appreciate you letting me come on the show, and for everybody listening and that submitted questions. I am doing the town hall tomorrow at the community center from 5:30 to 6:30. WNZF is going to be airing it live. It's going to be sponsored by Everlast Homes. We're going to stream it on the city's Palm Coast YouTube page, and there is a capacity limit of 125. So if you can't make it, then definitely listen in on the radio or watch the stream.
All right. Well, thank you so very much for being here. And you know what I say, guys? Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow's not promised. What are you going to do today? Listen, my suggestion is if you don't like something, send an email, call her, reach out to her.
Yeah,
Not just
definitely.
her, but all the city council people. Go to a meeting. Just don't start repeating stuff that you've heard. It may not be true. The trouble with people is not that they don't know, but that they know so much that ain't so. God bless you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
That's it. I've got another show I've got to record. So otherwise, I'd be sitting here and she and I'd be chatting it up. But we're going to have her back. We're going to do, you know what? While we're still recording.
Hi.
So why don't we do that one day? And maybe after the town hall, I'll get you to come into my office and we'll just stream live and we'll talk about what's going on, how it's going on. And that way we're not restricted by time. And if people want to have questions, they can post questions in there. All right.
Yeah, sounds great.
We will do it. All right, guys. I will talk to you later.